There's a situation going on in Washington right now over the government funding bill, and they have to make this decision to actually fund the government. If they don't, it'll shut down, and we've seen those government shutdowns before, and so that often is used as a threat to get different parties' ambitions through. And right now, we'll talk about the different interesting dynamics, even parts of this that annoy me, this funding bill, but the part that I find most interesting about this is that Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are kind of beefing with each other, clashing over this, because Kevin McCarthy is saying we should do everything to try to block the passage of this funding bill, labeling it as kind of a democratic, irresponsible spending situation. Mitch McConnell's saying, no, we need to do this, and also we've gotten through some Republican priorities in this bill that I didn't think we would be able to, so let's go ahead and take the win. So again, we'll discuss further, but first, here's this being reported.
Lawmakers finally unveiled the bill to fund the federal government nearly 3 months after the initial deadline. That initial deadline was September 30th. Then they punted the deadline until December 16th. And then they punted the deadline again to this coming Friday. And they finally unveiled it. When?
With days left before Christmas, Democrats and Republicans have reached an omnibus agreement completed at 1:15 a.m. early this morning.
When do they want to have the votes? Just in a matter of a couple of days. And this bill, more than 4,100 pages, will have very little time for public review, very little time for lawmakers themselves to read it before they are required to vote on whether or not to essentially pass this to avoid a government shutdown.
Things should be done differently, more responsibly, with more foresight and more planning.
So the end here, or we'll stop it, is kind of highlighting the aspect of this is just silly. And the Republican Party, some people within it are screaming about the fact that this was put forward with barely any time for them to read through the thousands of pages, and they're just expected to support it. And that I understand. I understand that aggravation. I think Democrats are also upset about that, because really, we're gonna have a multi-thousand page document and we're just supposed to support it with the trillions of dollars of funding. Now, the reason why the Republican Party would be standing against it is because they feel like the domestic spending is too much. There's too much on domestic programs often. So what they would put forward instead of this spending bill would probably be much worse. So that's why I'm kind of like, okay, I guess this one needs to get through, because I would much rather that than whatever Kevin McCarthy's dream funding bill would look like. But I also recognize in principle, and in this situation, it's really aggravating when you're forced to support something, forced to put your name on trillions of dollars of spending that you don't even have the time to comb through and understand each aspect of it. So then this is kind of where the clash comes in between McCarthy and McConnell. Chip Roy first tweeted out the kind of threat that the House GOP is sending to the Senate GOP. Quote, "We are obliged to inform you that if any omnibus passes in the remaining days of this Congress, we will oppose and whip opposition to any legislative priority of those senators who vote for this bill, including the leader." So Chip Roy is highlighting the commitment, I guess, from the House GOP, saying any senator on the Republican side that supports this funding bill, we are going to do everything possible to make sure none of their priorities get through once we take over in the House. Pretty interesting. And then Kevin McCarthy responded to Chip Roy and said, "Agreed, except no need to whip. When I'm speaker, their bills will be dead on arrival in the House if this nearly $2 trillion monstrosity is allowed to move forward over our objections and the will of the American people." So Kevin McCarthy is saying, if the Senate passes this, whoever within the Republican Party supported it is going to have my commitment that I'm going after them. I'm going to block everything that they want to get through in the next Congress. Interesting stuff. Well, Mitch McConnell kind of just came out and said his support for this bill.
Right now, according to most Republicans, that's sort of how we see the challenges confronting the country at the moment. So, admittedly, I'm pretty proud of the fact that with a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate, we were able to achieve, through this omnibus spending bill, essentially all of our priorities.
So he believes that his priorities have been put in this bill, and that's why he's supporting it, and that's why he's teaming up with Democrats to get it through. Again, I think it's so aggravating that these processes go the way that they do, that oftentimes certain things that I wouldn't want in this bill will get through because of the leverage the different individuals have. But that's just the way that this is going. Fascinating, though, that McConnell, despite the threats of the House and despite the aggravations of his own party within the other chamber, is saying, nope, this bill is exactly what I want and we're going to get it through. I don't care. Hopefully there will continue to be more division within the Republican Party so that they're less effective and the Democratic Party can defeat them on some of these political issues. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get a full extra show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley, and there's a link in the description.